In today's breaking news, the worries about Trump nominee for Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is racing towards DEFCON 1, and the immense concerns from a former CIA officer is trending, and I'll share why next. Abigail Spanberger is the former CIA officer that I'm speaking of, and she's now a congresswoman for Virginia. Please stick around because I'll play her words in just a minute, and it feels a bit like a CIA briefing. But she's not the only prominent political insider to be sounding the alarms about Gabbard. I've curated a supercut of Washington insiders that reminds us why so many are concerned. Let's begin with the ultimate insider, Hillary Clinton, who in this archived audio once crushed Gabbard's ambitions for the highest office.
I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third-party candidate. She's the favorite of the Russians. They have a bunch of sites and bots and other ways of supporting her so far.
A cynic might think, well, that was just a political dirty trick. Clinton torpedoed Gabbard's presidential hopes in support of Joe Biden. Enter Republican Mitt Romney, who also sounded the alarm as described by Tulsi Gabbard.
More recently, U.S. Senator Mitt Romney accused me of treason.
But wait, there's more. Here's another set of bipartisan opinions about the risk that Gabbard poses, and then I'll have the most damning opinion from a former CIA officer.
The Wall Street Journal editorial board is slamming his selection of former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard as his Director of National Intelligence, saying she has given no indication, that's according to the Wall Street Journal, that she is the right person for the job. You were the White House National Security Council senior ethics official. Are you concerned about Gabbard serving as the Director of National Intelligence? What do you think about that pick?
I think Tulsi Gabbard is somebody who's peddled in conspiracy theories for years. She's been an apologist for dictators, including Bashar al-Assad, and the Russians for that matter. So I'm concerned about this nomination. I think the Senate, which has a constitutional obligation to advise and consent to the president's appointments, is going to take its job very seriously. I hope they do, and they do their due diligence.
Tulsi Gabbard, what are your thoughts this morning?
Well, I thought it was the worst cabinet-level appointment in history until they then heard about the Matt Gaetz appointment. Really, my reaction was that this is like the legend of Caligula, the Roman emperor, who wanted to nominate his horse as a Roman consul. You had to be a Roman senator at the time to be a consul, and it was intended to show how demeaned and degraded the Roman Senate had become. So now we're going to see whether the American Senate can stand up and reject two people who are totally unqualified, unfit professionally, and really lacking in the immoral characteristics, the character that you need to hold these jobs.
And now for Representative Spanberger's very salient thoughts. Thoughts that I put above everyone else that you just saw. I do so because it can be argued that each of them have an axe to grind with Donald Trump and carry that energy whenever they're called upon for commentary. But Spanberger breaks down the risk that Gabbard is in a very practical and evidence-based way befitting of a former intelligence officer.
So I'm a former CIA officer. I worked undercover for my time with the agency as a case officer. And case officers throughout the world currently are out there recruiting foreign individuals to provide information to the United States government, to provide information that helps inform our policymakers, our military leaders, our diplomats, and ultimately the president. And that's when we talk about sources and methods, right? The sources and methods are the means by which we know certain things, whether that's the person who's reporting that information in some far-off country, whether it's technologies that might be at play. And so not only is it vitally important that we have a clear understanding that every person with access to classified information, and especially the DNI, protects the classified information that is collected, but also that they protect and understand how sensitive sometimes our means of gathering that information is, the sources and methods. And the DNI is the person who sees everything. They know every capability. They know the information that we do or do not have, the information that is or isn't informing our decisions. And frankly, the reason that this nomination, I think, is so dangerous is because any damage that she would do, any information she would provide the president, right? She tweets Russian propaganda, why not include it in the presidential daily brief? she traffics in conspiracy theories, why not kind of push that into the greater ecosystem of intelligence? And none of that would ever be seen by the public. There's no opportunity to push back. There's no opportunity to understand. And frankly, even just a lack of understanding of and respect for how it is that the intelligence community works could really, truly undermine not just our ability to collect information, but our ability to work with partner nations where information exchanges keep us safe.
Yeah.
And you know, there could be long-term damage to capabilities and methods that we use, you know, from whatever point in time, if she were to be confirmed into the future. And virtually, you know, very few people would know. And so the damage could just be catastrophic for our nation's own national security. And this isn't political. It's not a partisan issue. It's not about party or the president-elect. It's about our national security.
There is no shortage of evidence against Gabbard's nomination, but Donald Trump's superpowers are normalizing extremism and testing the limits of the government process. Now, I want you to imagine two lines. The first line represents what is normal and reasonable by conventional standards. The second line is way out there, a boundary that Donald Trump has stretched well beyond norms. Now imagine a third line somewhere in the middle, and that line represents the compromise that will result from Trump's diabolical process and where he hoped to land to begin with. Folks, that's the art of the Trump deal, and it's hiding in plain sight. Tulsi Gabbard just might be the sacrificial nominee to set up the next extremist who will look more reasonable by comparison.